Tonight on Capitol Hill, a routine budget hearing turned into a fundamental fight over the future of disaster response in the United States. What began as a polite welcome quickly escalated into a stark warning about FEMA, federal disaster aid, and what millions of Americans can expect the next time catastrophe strikes.
Thank you, Madam Ranking Member. The floor now belongs to the gentlelady from Connecticut, the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, who got here as quick as she could. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. My God, this is twice in one day here, so it's great to see you. We're hearing hopping here. Thank you so much, and I want to thank the ranking member Underwood for holding the hearing today, and welcome to you, Madam Secretary, and thank you for appearing before the subcommittee today. I just want to begin with a message to your workforce, if I might, and that's I'm grateful, very grateful for the work that they do, from search and rescue efforts of the Coast Guard to our first responders around the ground after natural disasters to those keeping us safe in the air and on the ground and at sea. I want to start with some big picture questions because I think we know very little of the details about where the $646 million cuts within FEMA's grant programs will come from. It is no secret that there are numerous reports of you, if we need to correct the record, stating that you want to, quote, eliminate FEMA within the Department of Homeland Security. I'm concerned about the direction that the administration is taking with regard to FEMA, canceling programs like Brink, a program enacted into law by President Trump in his first term without any evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse, alongside the freezing of grants, and now 2026 budget requests targeting even more of FEMA's resources. And just right now, in terms of looking at the cancellations, the Science and Technology Directors, Centers of Excellence, and Office of University Programs, as I mentioned, the FEMA-administered grant programs frozen virtually all grant obligations pending a review as it determines whether it will try to choke off funding for unacceptable political reasons. Resources for states and communities to respond to disasters, secure firefighting equipment, protect against terrorism, secure our ports, and much more is being held up. And as I mentioned, the cancellation of the BRIC program, funding to support hazard mitigation, reduce the toll of future disasters, save lives. That money's not going out. Research has shown mitigation efforts like BRIC save a minimum of $6 for every dollar invested and save more than double when including mitigation of economic impacts. So federal disaster relief should be readily available across the United States, regardless of where you live. Natural disasters happen everywhere. They should not be concerned about the federal government turning their back on them when they need the help the most. We need to give constituents what they need when they're facing tragedy, that they will not be stranded due to political discord. My ask of you is, what is your plan with regard to FEMA? Are you planning to eliminate FEMA? Your testimony references that you want to, quote, eliminate dysfunction of the current agency. I'm unclear, I don't know if my colleagues are clear on what you mean by dysfunction. And I'm concerned that you're causing more dysfunction within the workforce that should be preparing itself for the pending hurricane season.
Well, thank you for your question and the discussion on this topic today. President Trump has been very clear since the beginning that he believes that FEMA and its response in many, many circumstances has failed the American people, and that FEMA as it exists today should be eliminated and empowering states to respond to disasters with federal government
support. If you'll just, with all due respect, where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA? I don't know about everybody else on this. My state, Connecticut, was hit very, very hard with Superstorm Sandy. Every community in some way or another has been hit by that. And the FEMA on the ground, people come in, work with the families, deal with getting the funding out. Where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA?
Congresswoman, we still have claims open from Hurricane Katrina. We have fire claims that are still unpaid to people who said they were due them 7 to 8 to 10 years old. They have never been paid by FEMA. So one of the worst things that the federal government can do is to stand up in front of the American public and say, we will be there, we will walk alongside you in the most horrible time of your life, and then never follow through on it.
Well, that's
what
not...
the president has said is he's sick and tired of federal agencies that pick and choose who wins and who loses. He wants to make sure that the federal government's commitment, when it makes a commitment, that it follows through. So he's going to empower states.
The federal government is abdicating its commitment to the American people who find themselves...
It did certainly under Joe Biden's administration. Now President Trump's going to make sure
let me just say this
that
to you.
communities
The
are
Office
ready
of
for
Professional
disasters.
Responsibility. The Office of Professional, because I knew you were going to go there. As you know, FEMA's Office of Professional Responsibility, under the Biden administration, there was no evidence, no direction or agency or field leadership to discriminate against disaster victims based on political affiliation,
I'll give you all
which
the
was a
evidence you
charge.
need. I'll follow up with you.
Well, and I will follow up. I will follow up, and I follow up with my colleagues, quite frankly, and to really listen to people whose states, communities have been devastated, and what role FEMA has played. I don't know how many millions and millions of dollars went out in Louisiana. Actually, I've asked my staff to calculate that when Katrina hit, and the response was overwhelming. And the response has been overwhelming. If you want to make corrections, that's fine. We all agree with that.
Yeah, we can point to thousands and thousands of
Well, if you
where
wouldn't
FEMA
mind getting
was
this
timely
committee,
and
if you
responsive
wouldn't
to
mind
people.
getting this committee,
Unfortunately.
the information and the evidence where you talk about the dysfunction of the agency and where it has really failed, that would be important to those of us who are appropriating dollars. And it would appear that the administration overall has a way in which they're looking at dismantling the federal government. The states will never have the amount of money because the federal government isn't going to pass that money to the states to be able to deal with what happens. It's when the federal government comes in and be able to give a hand to do that. And I think it's very clear from what you said that both yourself and the president really want to dismantle the federal government and the agencies that have provided service to the American people for decades. I thank the chair for your time and yield back.
Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss clear, in-depth breakdowns of moments like this that directly affect real people. The exchange unfolded as the ranking member from Connecticut took the floor, fresh from another hearing, and immediately grounded the conversation in gratitude. She spoke directly to the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security workforce, Coast Guard crews pulling people from the water, first responders navigating debris after natural disasters, aviation and maritime personnel keeping the public safe. This opening was not ceremonial. It set the tone for what followed, a defense of the frontline workers who would bear the consequences of decisions made in Washington. If you value explanations that connect policy to people, subscribe now and stay with us. From there, the focus shifted to the numbers, and they are not small. The administration's proposal includes roughly $646 million in cuts to FEMA grant programs. The concern raised was not just about the size of the cuts, but the lack of clarity around where those cuts would land. State and local governments depend on FEMA grants for disaster preparedness, firefighting equipment, port security, terrorism prevention, and recovery after storms and fires. When those funds are frozen or eliminated, the impact is felt long before the next disaster even happens. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep following how these budget decisions unfold. One of the most pointed examples raised was the cancellation of the Brink program, a hazard mitigation initiative signed into law during President Trump's first term. Brick focuses on preventing disasters from becoming catastrophes, reinforcing infrastructure, flood control, fire prevention, and community resilience. Research consistently shows that mitigation saves money, at least $6 for every dollar invested, and even more when broader economic losses are considered. Cutting a program like this does not just reduce spending, it increases future costs, both financial and human. If this kind of context matters to you, hit subscribe. The lawmakers' deeper concern was about fairness and reliability. Natural disasters do not respect political boundaries. Hurricanes, floods, fires, and storms hit red states and blue states alike. Her warning was simple but powerful. Americans should not have to worry that federal help will be delayed, denied, or politicized when their lives have been turned upside down. Federal disaster relief, she argued, is not a favor, it is a promise. Subscribe now if you want more reporting that explains what government promises really mean in practice. Then came the central question, the one that stopped the room. What is the plan for FEMA? Is the administration actually planning to eliminate the agency, or is this about reform? The Secretary's testimony had referenced eliminating dysfunction, but critics argue that uncertainty itself creates dysfunction, especially with hurricane season approaching. Emergency management depends on planning, staffing, and coordination months in advance. Unclear leadership can be as damaging as budget cuts. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss how this debate evolves. The response from the Secretary did not soften the message. She cited long-standing unpaid claims, some dating back to Hurricane Katrina, others tied to wildfires years old. Her argument was that FEMA has promised help and failed to deliver for too many Americans. From this perspective, the real harm is not just inefficiency, it is the emotional and financial damage caused when people are told help is coming and then left waiting for years. If you want continued coverage that puts these claims into historical context, subscribe now. What viewers should understand is that this debate is not just about FEMA as an agency, it is about the role of the federal government in moments of national crisis. Should disaster response be centralized to ensure uniform standards and funding, or decentralized to give states more control, even if that means uneven outcomes? History shows that states vary dramatically in resources, expertise, and capacity. Eliminating or hollowing out FEMA would shift the burden onto states that may already be overwhelmed. Subscribe now for continued analysis of how this shift could reshape disaster response nationwide.